Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you guys doing this morning? Hello, hello. Wow, big news, eh? NFP data came out. Earlier this week, I don't know if it was yesterday morning or the day before, I said every week there's always a play. There's always a big move that's going to happen in the markets. And it could be setting up for a trade or it could be the trade. And I told you, well, institutional supply is in play on the euro US dollar, so I'm expecting a move to the downside. And lo and behold, NFP came out positive, and what did we see with the euro? A move to the downside. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We're going to be taking a look at the jobs data, how it's affecting the markets. We saw the indexes rallying up pretty aggressively. Initially, that got everybody excited. And then retail traders come in and start going in long, and then they pull the rug from under their feet. They're just terrible. The banks are just terrible. What they do to control price is just really, really horrible. If you don't know what's going on in these markets, man, you will just be taken for a ride constantly, over and over, right? Ugh. So we're going to look at what's going on. We're going to look at some stocks. We're going to look at Bitcoin. We got a lot of trending tickers: VRT, U, SHOP, Hood. All interesting names to take a look at. So we're going to look at all those things. We're going to read through the headlines and see if there's anything that sticks out, see if there's any trade setups, or if the news is just being used to manipulate people, to get them to offload positions. It's always a learning lesson here, okay? There's always something to learn from examining these markets. So, yeah, let's just dive right in, shall we? Let's start with taking a look at the headlines. All right. So, jobs numbers come out. Pretty positive. Reaction from the market, pretty darn good. Okay, we got a push to the downside. There was a potential long trade on gold. I put in the trade, but I risked really small amount just because the signs were there, and I was figuring, you know what, why not? It didn't work out because the data came out and it spiked price to the downside really aggressively. But whatever. There could be a really nice shorting opportunity now. I was looking at off of this 15-minute supply zone, but risky, but it could work out to the downside really well. Since the 1 hour demand, because remember, we were tracking what was happening here, 1 hour demand, right? You guys are following along with the storyline. This was the supply zone here that took price to the downside. That was a potential short signal. A lot better on silver. There was a short signal on silver. Here's where price dropped from. Price came up, removed the zone, okay? Created demand here. And so that demand held, pushed price to the upside, and actually tiptoed and removed the daily supply. So there was a decent chance that this demand zone was going to hold and price was going to rally up. Data came out, worked against us, spiked us out, whatever. We move on. It was very small risk. I wouldn't have risked a big amount on that trade because it was extremely risky. But the upside was huge, so I took a risk on it. Okay, so what do we see with gold overall? Well, you know, the daily supply zone was just broken through. Okay, right here, and so that leads me to suspect that, you know, over time we could see a push to the upside. But the thing is that euro and gold tend to move alongside each other. And what I'm seeing with the euro is major supply is come into play. And if you've been following our data, right, looking at the latest CFTC data, what do we see? That they've maxed out on their long positions. They're going to have to take profits on those positions. So that leads me to suspect that we're going to see a move to the downside over time, okay? So just pointing out what's happening here on gold, very important, and seeing the reaction. Here's euro US dollar, okay? So this is why I had forecasted that the move of the week was going to be a move to the downside on the euro, because this institutional supply zone was in play. Okay, it gave this zone to members. We talked about it in great detail, exactly why we are expecting price to move to the downside off of this exact area of selling. Prices rallied up, contacted this area of supply, and so the move to the downside was to be expected. We switched down to the 1 hour time frame, And I'm monitoring this zone right here, okay? I've given the exact reasons why I'm monitoring this zone for members, and I gave them the zone already, so they're well aware of what we're watching for. And so we got price to travel to the downside, as you can see. This was the reaction from NFP. Price rallied back up and reclaimed the demand zone. Okay, it could have ripped through the demand zone and closed down here, but the banks rallied it back up and closed within this demand zone. That tells you, folks, that the banks are monitoring this zone. Okay, I know that's a big statement, and a lot of people make a lot of statements when it comes to trading, and most of them are false or nonsensical. But this is not false and it's not nonsensical. This is real deal. All right. I located this zone before this took place. I know what it looks like when price reclaims a zone. I've been doing this 13 years. 13 years now? Yeah, 13 years. So I know, and my students know, okay, because this is what we study, left, right, and center all the time. So they reclaimed it, but this next candle, you see what happened here? They officially took out the zone. Okay, so if they officially took out the zone, then that means they're selling above price right now. Okay, I believe this is the selling zone right here, but it's tricky because it could also be the one above it. But this is the one that I'm going to be focusing my attention on. By the way, did we get... Let me see. No, we didn't. Oh, that's too bad. I asked you guys to... oh, we just fell short of those likes on that post. That's too bad. I could have given you the short signal that I'm watching on the euro. So we'll just skip through that. Maybe tomorrow we'll try again if it hasn't already triggered the short signal. But anyways, more downside is what we're seeing here. And this could be the very high of price before a major collapse. So this could be a really big risk to reward trade. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that. Okay. All right. So what else do we have? Let's take a look at the rest of the headlines. U.S. stocks rise after job report surprise. Okay. Yeah. Nice headlines, right? Okay. Well, let's look at the S&P. Let's take a look at the 1 hour time frame. Look, there's the big spike up. All right. From the news, everybody starts getting in long. Oh, good data. We're going to go in long. And then it reverses. Where does it reverse to? A random spot? No, institutional demand right here. Okay, we located this as institutional demand. Price drops here. This is where retail traders usually freak out. Those that are day trading, they're entering here and they're exiting down here and freaking out. But as they're exiting, the banks come in and buy. Why? Because that is their buying zone. All right. This is why retail traders always get messed up. Okay, because they're watching the news and reacting, and the banks know that. So you don't want to be that person. You want to be the one knowing where the zones are and knowing why price is going to either respect the zone or take them out. Okay, if you get into supply and demand trading, one thing you learn is not every single zone holds, and there's a reason being. Okay, there's a reason for that. You have to understand what's happening on all the time frames. Only certain zones are going to hold, and that's the key, is to know what zone is going to hold and why. Once you understand the logic of why a zone is going to hold, then things start to make a lot more sense. So we got to push back. Now we're inside institutional demand. Could we see a move to the upside from here? Yes, we could. Do we know for a fact it's going to hold? No, we don't. So how would you know if you wanted to know for a fact that this zone is going to hold? Well, you would switch it to a lower time frame. You'd find the strong imbalances, and I'd be looking at an area around here, okay? And I'd be looking for price to come up, create institutional demand, pull back, and then you get your signal, okay? That's kind of what you'd be looking at. You wouldn't want to just bet your money that that demand zone is going to hold. There's times where you can bet your money that a zone is going to hold, and there's times where you shouldn't. And in this case, I wouldn't just bet that the zone is going to hold. Decent odds that it does, but I wouldn't bet my money on it. I'd wait for a confirmation. But remember NASDAQ. What have we been telling you about NASDAQ? That when we got that latest drop, look at the significant supply zone that was created, okay? This was significant. This is a major zone on a daily time frame, okay? So that is a zone to be respected. If price comes up into this area, there's going to be some kind of a reaction. Either it's going to be a big drop, or it's going to be some kind of reaction, and then eventually we rally up. Unless this supply breaks, there's not going to be any sustained momentum to the upside, period, okay? So how would you know what's going to happen? Well, you look on the lower time frames and watch for the signals, because what they do on the lower time frames as it reacts from that daily supply zone will give you insight on what's about to come, okay? But it looks like there's an institutional demand area here that price is reacting to as well right now. Okay, we had a supply area here that got taken out, and we are reacting from a switch zone from higher up. You see that? Look at that switch zone. What once was demand turns into supply, gets contacted here, and then look, to the T, gets contacted here, there, and now drops down into demand. So we got the same situation. Would I be surprised if they both rally up today, NASDAQ and the S&P? No, I wouldn't be surprised. So if you're a day trader and you're like, how do I day trade the markets? Well, this is how you day trade the markets, okay? You take it down to a lower time frame. 15-minute doesn't show you much, go to 5 minutes, okay? Look for reversal signals. Maybe you have your own strategies of looking for reversal signals. If you have your own strategies and you're not comfortable with supply and demand, fine. Apply your reversal strategies to the supply and demand zones. Locate the zones. Now you have a good chance of actually making a positive trade, because now you know that we are reacting from a demand zone, okay? Whereas before you would have had no clue. Now you know we're reacting from demand, so the chances of a rally are high, okay? So you look for your reversal signals and you trade them, okay? If that's what you do, okay? Another thing that supply and demand would bring to you is if you understood the sequence, which is a concept that we teach at the school, the sequences, is knowing what time frame you have to switch to if price is reacting from a monthly demand zone. In this case, we could switch down to a 15-minute chart. You'd see the reaction RSI very weak, right? So that tells us immediately that we'd need to see another drop, bringing RSI into the green band before we should start looking for any type of sustained move to the upside on this time frame. Okay, and once you get that move and it starts giving you a bullish signal, you can switch to a lower time frame. Once again, maybe a 5-minute chart, and look for an entry based on that. Okay, so very, very powerful understanding these concepts. Without them, you know, you're putting chances against you of being successful, because you're looking for long signals. Where are you looking for long signals? If you don't understand context, if you don't understand where price is, what it's responding to, then why would you be looking for a long signal? Just because price action looks bullish? It doesn't matter if it looks bullish. Nobody cares if something looks bullish. What matters is, are the banks buying there, and why? Why are they buying there? What's really happening? Okay. So in this context, the banks are buying there. Why? It's a short-term buying zone that took place, and we just reacted to the downside after some news came out. So it's very possible that we see a rally from there. Why? Because that up here is where retail were getting in, and they're exiting down here. Okay. How many retail had stop losses below this previous low here? So they got stopped out. So this is the spot where you'd want to be looking for long signals. Okay. So keep your eye on that and see how that plays. Okay. Bitcoin whales are on a buying spree as other traders retreat. I don't know about that. I'm hearing a lot about Bitcoin these days. Holy moly. This Michael Saylor, just totally unbelievable, this guy. You know, he has an answer for everything, like Paul Gardy was saying. He has an answer for everything, this guy. They were reclaiming the daily demand. Now they are not. They're taking it out. Okay, so this is weakness, short-term weakness. Now, over the higher time frames, we still have a major demand zone here on the monthly time frame that's still holding. Major demand, okay? But remember, I told you now we're in a range. We had institutional supply above price. We have institutional demand that we are responding to. So we're in a range scenario. So could we get upside? Yes, we could, but it'd be limited to about 87,000 where we'd see significant selling again. All right. But I could tell you one thing, if this demand zone gets taken out on the monthly time frame, this is not good for Bitcoin. I could see a drop to 25K easy. And you know, a lot of people are talking about this. Oh, it's in this cycle, it's in that. And if you do this measurement and do that, it looks like it could drop. Okay, forget about all that. Just recognize the buying and selling that's taking place. Because remember, as I pointed out this to you before, Bitcoin used to be a free bird up until right here, back here, okay? Back in 2017, Bitcoin enters the futures market December 18, 2017 via CME futures contract. Ever since here, the price of Bitcoin has been controlled. Okay? Now you know. And what controls it? Institutional buying and selling is controlling price. Period. Okay? They control price. So, you know, when you're looking at price action, you see this demand zone being created and it being respected. Yeah, it's because institutions are controlling price. You see this demand zone here? Yeah. You see how it was removed? Yeah. You see how it created institutional supply? Yeah. Do you see how price rallied up to that supply and then shot price to the downside? Right. That's not a coincidence. That's buying and selling by the banks. Okay. Same thing here. Buying here, buying here. You see how this zone of buying, they retraced and bought there again? You see how they created demand here, rallied up, contacted demand once, twice, three times, and then rallied up? That's not a coincidence that this is happening. This is institutional buying and selling controlling price, okay? Another buy zone here, another buy zone here. You see how price dropped to that buying zone, okay? And then they rallied from it. You see the other buying zone here, and then they dropped into it and they rallied from it. Yes. You see the big selling area that removed this buying zone? Yeah. Institutional selling. You see how they just traded right through this zone as if it was nothing, but then they retrace it right back up to this area and sold the hell out of it? Yes. Okay. So this is controlled by the banks. The institutions are controlling the price of Bitcoin. So you can't take any information that people tell you about Bitcoin because of this reason, this fundamental reason, because they're mining this and that. Forget about all that. Forget about all of that, okay? Bitcoin price is being controlled by the banks, period. Right? So you have to know what the banks are doing. Otherwise, you don't have the odds stacked in your favor if you're trying to trade alongside them, okay? So demand is in play now, so we could see a move to the upside, but I wouldn't be touching this right now, okay? If I wanted to go long, what do you think would have to happen? You know, common sense tells you this big selling area would have to be taken out first, right? Selling area would have to be taken out and new buying would have to come into the market before ever even entertaining the idea of going long Bitcoin. And if this demand zone gets taken out, sayonara, this sucker can drop, okay? Next spot to get in would be at 25K. And it could be a nice rally from there, depending on how excited everybody gets and whether the banks start buying from down there again. I don't know what their agenda is, okay? I just follow what they're doing and then trade alongside them, okay? Trump weighs quitting USMCA as tariffs. All right, FAA reopens El Paso airspace. Banks dig in on stablecoin rules, holding up key crypto bill. JP Morgan. Let's see how the bank is doing. JP Morgan. We were looking at the financial sector the other day. Some good stuff there. JP Morgan looks like being bought, short-term selling taking place. Yes, again, folks, that's not a coincidence that we had a supply area there and prices dropping from that supply area, okay? Not a coincidence. We also have a major buying zone here on the weekly time frame. It moved again. What is going on? Oh, yeah. No, it's not that. What's that setting again that keeps on moving my price? There. God, Jesus, Murphy. Okay, there we go. All right, so institutional demand came in on the weekly time frame, and they've contacted it once, twice, three times. This is a good sign for the stock. This looks like it's being bought heavily by big institutions. Here, here, here. And they're buying it all at the same price, okay? Around $300. Every time they rally, they short it, let the steam run out, bring it back down to $300, and they're buying it. So this looks very good for continued move to the upside. If I look at the higher time frame charts and look at our upper targets, we're a little bit pretty close to it. So there could be a drop, so you'd have to be very careful. One thing I would want to see for sure is this zone taken out, new buying coming in. Yeah, and then I'd be interested in going long. I'd move my stop loss pretty soon after getting into here. Once it starts clearing the previous highs and stuff, I would, because we could see this turn around and provide a bigger drop. Although when we look at the financial sector, okay, let me show you that. When we look at the financial sector, okay, we are responding from the same supply. Okay, look at JP Morgan. See how it's responding to a supply zone on what time frame? Daily time frame. Okay, now let me go to the financial sector. You see how it's hitting the same supply zone? Okay, so the sector is being shorted. JP Morgan stock is being shorted. Okay, we had a weekly demand zone that came into play. Oh gosh, I got to switch that again. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. All right. Adjusted for dividends off. Okay. Let me see. JP Morgan. Was it off? Off. Oh, now it's switched. Now, shoot. Okay. It should have been like that. Adjusted for that. Okay. Good. Now it's good. All right. Good. So we hit the buying zone on the weekly time frame, as you can see on XLF. Price came down, rallied up, contacted supply. If that supply were to be taken out, guess what? Institutional buying would have continued and pushed price to the upside, but they are respecting it. You know what? We could have looked for a short trade on the 1 hour time frame, and there's your signal right there. Right there. Here's the reaction off of daily supply. Here's institutional supply. Here's your short signal right there. That would have been a great trade. They spiked it up. That was probably the news this morning, right? Yeah. Yeah. That was the news this morning. Spiked it up on NFP and then reversed it with institutional supply. Okay. So this is how the signal system works at the school. Okay. We're not just randomly looking for price patterns. It's not price patterns. We're looking at institutional buying and selling. We're looking at what are they doing? Are they attacking a demand zone? Does it look like demand is going to be broken through? How do we know that? Well, you look at the supply and demand on the lower time frames. I'm giving you nuggets here that should be blowing your mind. And if it's not blowing your mind, it's just you're not comprehending what I'm saying. But stick with us, keep watching the live sessions, and you'll start to understand what we're doing here. So this was a potential short signal here, just as it was reacting off of that area of supply. And to have confirmed it, we wanted to see more supply coming into the chart. And this is exactly what happened here. Okay. Pivotal buying zone got taken out, selling came in, took over, and now we're seeing the drop. That would have been a nice short on the sector right there at $53 down to 52. Yeah, it looks like this is going to break now. Okay, now I can forecast the market because I'm seeing demand coming into play on the weekly. Price rallies up off of it, hits a daily supply. They start shorting short term against a medium term buying zone, which tells me they're not going to continue buying. It's confirmed on the 1 hour time frame, driving price down. Now the odds are this zone gets taken out, price declines even further. Okay. This is how we do this is how we work out the puzzle of how price is going to play out. So let's go back to JP Morgan. So that tells us that with supply in play, we could see a bigger push to the downside. Okay. What was the other one? BAC, Bank of America. We have a weekly demand in play, but not high quality. We talked about that one before. It's not high quality. We got a reaction to the upside off of it. Let's see the chart. Let's see the chart. Let's see the chart. It looks like it looks like supply is here. But on this one, it took out supply. So there would have been no short signal here, okay? Took out supply, institutional demand is in here. I'd be watching this demand zone for a break. Okay, I'd be watching that demand zone for a break. Took out a major area of supply on the 6-month. That's something to recognize. A big drop to institutional demand on the monthly time frame would be a good signal, and I already got my alert there. There, I just released a signal for you for free. Bank of America, set an alert on this imbalance here. Big buying zone here. If price came down to this $50 area, it'd be a good spot to be looking for a long signal, okay? There you go. A long signal based on institutional buying, not just because the chart has this pattern, okay? I'm not looking at candlestick patterns, okay? I'm looking at the buying and selling of the institutions. I'm tracking all their buying and selling on all the multiple time frames to time and entry. Big difference. Wall Street's new trade, dumping any stock in AI's crosshairs. Heinz pauses plan to split into two. Dollar Tree reaps the trade down and the upsell. Dollar Tree, DLTR. Let's take a look. DLTR. I've been tracking this one for some time. Yeah. And it's over. Yeah, there was long signals, but it's done now. Why? You see on the 6-month time frame, you see how we came into an institutional supply zone? Boom. Okay. This is where profit taking takes place. You see that big drop? Look at that big drop. That's profit taking from a supply area. So I'd wait for it to drop, wait for it to produce new demand again, and then I'd be interested. Looks like on the weekly chart we have some institutional buying here. Could provide the move to the upside. So I'd be watching that zone, paying attention to it. Okay. And what else we got here? Oh, look at that switch zone that it's responding to right now. Wow, wow, wow. Beautiful. All right. All right. I'd be waiting off on this one. Major supply in play. It could drop even further, so I'd stay away from that. DG made money on DG. This was good, the long trade. Excuse me. We came into a major area of supply, so I took my profits. And now I'm waiting to see either if it retraces into institutional demand zones or if it will take out this supply and produce new demand zones. One of the two is going to happen. Okay, but I do like this stock. I just don't see a good setup for it right now. Okay, so let's go into, we looked at Bitcoin already? Yeah, we did. We just finished looking at Bitcoin. So that's one of the trending tickers. VRT, let's see what VRT is up to. Big gap up. Ooh, look at this. Really good stock. Yeah, very good stock. Look, major buying took place here. Okay. Came down, never hit it exactly. Let's see, major buying took place here. Never came down to it exactly. Another buying area here, but not good quality. And looks like potential for new buying to take place right now from the start of $175, but we'll have to wait and see. See, right now, retail traders are chasing after price. It's the worst time to be buying. Worst time. No, they're here. The thing is, to be a profitable trader, you have to read maps. Okay, but you need to know what maps to read. Well, you read the maps that are created by the banks because they control price, so you should be reading their maps. Okay, it's like if you wanted to make your way around a small island, right? You'd want to follow a map created by somebody who is sitting in the helicopter above the island drawing out the roads for you, right? You need somebody who has control over the situation drawing the map. You're not going to just follow a random patterns, right? You want a map that is actually going to be presented to you by somebody that knows what they're doing. The banks are controlling price. They're the ones that are creating the zones. These demand zones, supply zones, they're creating them. So you want them to first show you what they're doing, show you where the zones are, wait for them to produce the map, and then once the map is there, then you know where the buying zones are, the selling zones, and then you just wait for price to come to you. If it doesn't come to you, so what? There's 1,005 other charts to be looking at. If it does come to you, you look for the confirmation, you take the trade, and you go alongside the banks. Okay, so that's how we do it. So right now I wouldn't touch this one. It's not quite ready. Let's take a look at you. What's going on with you? Software company. Software's been hit lately. Big time, eh? Big drops in price. Yeah. A little bit of a spike up now. I don't see anything special here. No. It's too early to touch this one. I wouldn't touch it. I'd stay away from it. Shop. SHOP. What was that? Earnings? Whoo, gap up and drop with decent earnings. Look at that. Beat expectations. Everybody was buying at the open, and then they dropped it. Well, okay, so let's track what's going on here. First of all, let's look at the monthly time frame, okay? And what do we see? Big institutional buying came here. Big institutional buying came here. They emotionally spiked it, held above it. Interesting. It's not the greatest area here, but there could be some buying here that took place. We could be emotionally spiking through, but end up reclaiming it. We still got 16 days, so they might pull it up and reclaim that demand zone there. And if they do, then we can watch the lower time frame for signals. Let's look at the daily time frame. Oh wow, look at this. Okay, so we had a major buying zone here. Zoop, right across. And price came, dropped right here, institutional supply here. They gapped up above their supply and then dropped it. Interesting. That doesn't usually happen. If they gap up, it's usually inside of an institutional supply zone, but they went through it. They went through this one. Brutal. Brutal. Let's look at the weekly time frame, see what's going on here. Big selling. Oh, we have a monster. Oh, God, this is not good. What I'm seeing right here. Monster buying zone here. Monster buying zone. That means they're coming in with significant selling right here. This is a significant selling zone right here. So I would stay the hell away from this because they're coming in with major, major selling right now. Could it reclaim on the monthly? Maybe. If it does reclaim on the monthly and then we see buying coming out and removing supply, then I'd be interested in going long. Otherwise, stay the hell away from it. Okay? And hood, HOD. Let's see. Yeah, I wouldn't touch it. They just removed a massive buying zone on the monthly time frame. Okay? Major, major monthly zone. And the last area that came in with selling was here. Okay, on the weekly time frame, major selling zone right here. So lots of selling pressure right here. So we could get a short-term move to the upside because we do have institutional demand in play right now, but this would be short-lived and we'd see more weakness, okay? And again, if you take a look at the monthly time frame, you see what's going on here. They just took out a major buying zone, okay? If they were interested in buying, they would push price up from here, but they're not. They're interested in selling. And that's why you see this major selling area coming in on the weekly time frame. So this is not good. I would not touch hood. I would not touch it. Okay? I'd wait for it to settle down, wait to see what happens. If they start removing big selling areas on the medium time frame, which is weekly, then they would come in with big buying zones. And then if they came in with big buying zones, let them make the map, let them create the zones, let them rally price up. And then when price retraces down to those buying zones, then you can jump on board. Whew, we covered a lot. Hey, we covered a lot. What do you guys think? Did we do it? Did we do enough for you guys today? Did I cover a lot? Let's see some of your comments. It seems most of the market are gearing for a big downside move. I wouldn't say that. I know there's a lot of people out there saying that. And again, you got to be careful with what people are saying, okay? Because a lot of times people are saying things just to get you to listen to what they're saying, all right? There's no proof that the market's gearing for a move to the downside. No proof, okay? You know how And you'd have to define what does a move to the downside mean. Some people, see a move like this and they're like, oh, major move to the downside. Not really. Not when you know there's a big buying that's taking place down here, okay? A big move to the downside for me, well, a medium-term move would be, the market dropping to 6,400. That's a medium-term move, okay, for me. 6,400, medium-term, okay? Long-term is that if that institutional zone gets taken out, and now you got a situation where price could drop down to 5,600 or towards that area. That to me is a big move, okay? A long-term move. But you have to define what a big move is, okay? And you can only know the answers to that by studying each individual time frame, period, okay? You can make all the assumptions you want, and you hear people say it all the time. Oh, it looks like, forget all that. Oh, we're under the 100-day moving average. Now this could do that. Forget all that. It doesn't matter. You could be under a 100-day moving average and be inside an institutional buying zone on a monthly time frame. So if you think that means that price is going to drop because you're under an average, you're deeply mistaken. Okay, and that information will be used against you because you'll be looking for candlesticks that show you bearishness when the banks will be creating those bearish candlesticks inside institutional demand so they can buy as you're selling to them. Okay, so you got to be very careful. You have to first define what does it mean? What kind of a move is defined by what? So you only know what's happening by looking at each individual time frame and looking at the supply and demand dynamics that are playing out on each one. If demand is holding on the daily time frame, then downside could happen on a 1-hour time frame, but it's not really a big move to the downside. If there's space to get to a daily demand zone, then you could have short-term momentum to the downside, but that's not really a big move to the downside, right? So you have to be very careful. A lot of people say a lot of things, but you should be really informed of what's happening on the charts and understand the dynamic of how all these time frames play into each other, okay? So if there's one thing that you take away from today's session, at least take that away from it, okay? A lot of stuff being said out there. Just put things into perspective. Block all the nonsense out, stick to what really matters, and you'll have a clear picture of what's going on, okay? And that's what I'm trying to bring to you in these morning sessions, and hopefully it's helpful and you start to see what it is that we do. And if you want to understand on a deeper level, come and join us at the school. We'd love to have you, whiteoakfx.com, okay? Anyways, I'll leave you with that. And the Japanese yen pairs. What about the Japanese yen pairs? Well, what do you think is going to happen with the Japanese yen pairs? Let's take a look at the US dollar Japanese yen. If you've been following and watching the CFTC videos that I've been doing and looking at the data, looking at the dynamic of what's playing out, I've told you many, many times something happened here, big moment here on the Japanese yen. There was a turning point. We were getting a signal here on the chart, according to RSI, that there could be a bigger move coming down here, and it stopped right here. Something different took place here that caused price to move up. At the end of the day, we are responding to supply, so it could have been a delayed drop. That's a possibility, but I don't think that's the case. I'm being very watchful of what's going on here because I think, this was a very, very bullish signal, what's happened since the lows here. So I am watching for signs of a push to the upside, okay? Over time, we're dealing with very, very large time frames, so I think over time, we could be seeing a bigger push to the upside, but it's going to take some time to develop that. All right. And one of the things that's leading us to suspect that too is what we are seeing on the dollar. Okay. What have I been saying? The dollar is contacting institutional demand. So over time, we suspect that we're going to see a move to the upside. Okay. Very important. Anyways, I'm not going to give you all my nuggets. If you want all my nuggets, you come and join us. I think I gave you enough today. All right. All right, folks, you take care. It's been lovely having you as always. I appreciate you guys joining. And if you want to help out our channel, hit the like, leave some comments down below. I always love reading your comments. It always makes my day. All right, good stuff. You take care. Have a good one. Until next time, so long, everybody.